Humanity, I love you all with all my heart, with all my might. I'm so Ray. My videos are about love, infinity, creation, energy, because we're infinite love, infinite energy, infinite creation. This is who we are. This is our nature. We're the human species. We're the human race. We're a benevolent species. We're a loving species, a heart-based species, a love-based species, a heartful species. We're a good species. Our nature is to love. Why? Because the human heartbeat. You see, the human heartbeat is the pulse of life, the pulse of creation. It generates the electromagnetic field that surrounds the human body. It's this spherical energy, it's a force field. And the space structure of that sphere is us, the human body. Our consciousness, our self-awareness, our intelligence, our sentience, our ability to have senses, to have sensory perception, to have emotions, feelings, okay? So, and at the epicenter of the sphere is the singularity of the sphere. So, and the heart is the pulse of life, the pulse of creation. So it generates the field. So that means that the epicenter of the human existence, of the life spherical energy that we're life spherical beings, is the human heart. So our biological creator is the human heart. That's just the way our DNA works. And as you know, with singularities, it's the point of energy, it's where all the energy is released. So the highest energy is that creates, right? It's like the sun, our central sun creates the energy at the epicenter, the brightest, the hottest point, the highest energy. So it is the same with us. So at our scale of density, the biological scale, the human heart generates the highest energy, and the highest energy is love. So love is the highest energy of the human heart. So at the epicenter, our biological singularity is the human heart. So at the epicenter of the human heart is the highest energy of creation, and that's love. So we create with love, is the highest energy of creation. So our instinct is to love, because when we love, we feel great, right? We make love, we have children, we love our children, right? We love our children. It's our instinct to love them. Why? Because it makes us feel good, and it also helps them to become great humans when they become older. So this is our nature. You see, we're a benevolent species. Our primary instinct is a human heartbeat, and then that leads to our highest energy level, which is within the human heart, which is love. You see, is the highest energy of creation. So this is our nature. This is who we are. We're a loving species. It's our nature. We create with the highest energy of creation, and this is the human heart. You see, the electromagnetic field of the human heart is an incredible achievement. It's a biological wonder. It's incredible how amazing we are, because we channel the energy of the central sun through us. You see, we essentially became the image of our creator, and our creator is the central sun of this universe, because we are at the epicenter of the universe. This is our location, our coordinate, where we are found. Planet Earth is at the epicenter of this universe, of the cosmos, at the very center, because we come from the central sun. Our sun is the sun of suns, is the first sun, is the singularity of this universe. And because we come from the very epicenter of this universe, that means that we were the first life form to evolve into light spherical energy, infinite consciousness, infinite love, infinite self-awareness, who we are, the human species. And the expression of this is the human heart. The human heart is the reflection of the scale of creation. You see, singularity, the epicenter, all the elements are created at the star, central star, our sun, and they move across the universe and create all the other galaxies as a result of filling up all these space vacuum structures, spherical vacuum thresholds that are met within the space structure of the sphere, which is the universe. And that is all the energy that leads to those singularities forming galaxies. So the same logic at the biological scale, because we are the life form that inhabits the epicenter of the universe, the central sun of creation, we evolved into the image of it at the biological scale. So that's why we like spherical energy. That's why we're spherical energy, just like the sun, but at the biological scale. And we also have a singularity at the epicenter, and this is the human heart. And the highest energy of the human heart is love. Love is the energy of creation, you see, and this is who we are. We're the human species. We're a remarkable species. an incredible species. We're an amazing species. So today's video is exactly about this. It's about the story of humanity, our story. Okay, that essentially is who we are. And I have a visual that I have already uploaded. So it's in all the different channels, so you can check it out and understand the nature of the visual. So now I'm gonna talk about it. This video is essentially explaining the visual, okay, like I normally do with all my videos. My previous video was an exercise, but this one is important because it is a fundamental concept. It's really our nature, is who we are. Okay, this is just who we are. So it's compass and sandals. You see, I'm reading the information of the actual visual, and then I'm gonna walk you through it and take my time to really talk about it, because this is fundamental. So you see, we're compass and sundial. This is who we are. Each human is a compass and a sundial at the same time. This is virtuous cycle of creation. You see, compass and sundial as one lead to this infinite virtuous cycle of infinity. You see, it just goes forever because of the duality principles. You see, they come together and they, as you know, the polarity, right? And by coming together, it generates this self-reinforcing mechanism that leads to infinity. It generates its own singularity at the epicenter of it, which is the union. You see, the electromagnetism, the telemetry, the electrogravitics that are generated as a result of this interaction of these two elements, which is who we are, these two components, these two principles, sundial and compass. Why are we compass? Because we like spherical energy, you see, and we're spherical, just like a compass. So what this means is that it's our electromagnetic field of creation. So you see, we are, you know how the sun creates elements at its core, right? And light, photons, and all these, you know, hydrogen and helium. And then these are the building blocks that go and form galaxies. And galaxies, you know, are a different level of scale and density, with their own singularities, with their own central suns at the epicenter of those singularities, that are essentially, you know, all the energy comes out of it and just populates fills the space structure of the sphere of that galaxy, and that forms into singularities that are known as star systems, and then planets form around them and life forms, right? But at the epicenter of those central suns is also the potential for life forms to emerge, like us, that inhabit the epicenter of the universe, which is the central sun, the sun of suns, the first sun that where all light comes from, and created all the galaxies in our universe, or most of them, because we also have created our own galaxies, as we learned. So this is part of our story as humanity, story of humanity, who we are. So just like the sun, at its brightest point at the singularity, generates primary elements, we ourselves as compass do the same with the highest energy of creation, which is the energy from the epicenter of our singularity, which is the human heart. The highest energy of creation is love. So this highest energy of creation, love, leads to consciousness and self-awareness. It leads to the singularity of all the other organs and glands, the brain, the minds, our lungs. So you see, oxygen in, oxygen out, into the body, out into all the different organs of the body, into the heart. So the heart distributes oxygen across all the other organs of the body, all the systems. So you see this infinite resonance. You see all these pulse. You see the lung, the heart as one, and then that leads to this singularity, this beautiful singularity of the mind, consciousness, and self-awareness, who we are, because of the energy of love, the highest energy of creation. And we're conscious and self-aware of our love for ourselves as compass, you see, because when we're conscious and self-aware of our nature, then that's what allows us to understand who we are. We're compass. And just like the sun creates primary elements, we ourselves create our own primary elements with the energy of love. We manifest our free will as a result of that. So the primary elements are identity and true self, knowing our nature, who we are, as infinite eternal creators, as compass, as sundials, as co-creators of infinite eternities, our nature, as a human race, who we are, a benevolent species that capable of generating the highest energy of creation at the biological scale, which is love. Okay, so we are these. So you see, this is our first primary element, identity and true self. Essentially, it's our destiny to, this is what we're here for, to know who we are, to find out who we are. So then once you're conscious and self-aware of who you are, then you can actually go and create and manifest your free will with purposeful daily action. Because this is our nature, this is who we are as compass. So then the second primary element that is created as a result of this primordial primary element, the first one, identity and true self, is purpose. Because of our free will, then, and we have consciousness of awareness, we're intelligent beings, you see, we're sentient, we have feelings and emotions, we're an extremely advanced species. So what that means is that we can choose our own purposes. We choose our course of action. We choose our purpose because we follow our hearts, right? We live to love and we love to live. The purpose of life is a life of purpose, a meaningful life, a beautiful life, a happy life, a life full of meaning, a meaningful life. You see, the pursuit of happiness. All these notions are based on this because when you love, you feel great. It's the highest energy. So the organism is in homeostasis. You see, it's great. It's synchronicity. Everything is working as it should. It's healthy. A healthy organism, great well-being, great health, because we want to love. It's our optimal level because it's a perfect high. It's the highest energy of creation. It's what we were designed for by biology or DNA. So because it's the highest energy of the epicenter, you want to create the greatest energy so you can create more. You see, and because we have an identity and a true self, then we have boundaries, our true self boundaries, our 10 dimensions that lead to our true self, our epicenter, self-love. You see, so we start to love ourselves and understand our nature. So once we know who we are, then we can choose our purpose because of our consciousness, our self-awareness, our intelligence, our sentience. We can make choices. We have infinite consent freedoms. We can choose our purpose with our free will. You see, because we manifest our free will with our consciousness and self-awareness. It's our nature. So because of it, then we have this second primary element, this fundamental primary element, purpose, that essentially guides us. You know, it really becomes our quest in life, our purpose. You see, as infinite eternal creators, these are the instincts of our species to create, to be purposeful. So, and then that leads to the third primary element, which is a lot of the information that I'm going to share with you in this video, because this video has to do a lot with time and energy, which is this third primary element that is created as a result of us understanding our nature as infinite eternal creators, compass and sundials, identity and true self, and then purpose, that leads to this third primary element, which is a fundamental part of this video because it's our nature. You see, we're infinite energy. The human heart is the epicenter of our field of creation, and the highest energy is love, so it's a singularity. So what that means is that your energy is our nature. We're light spherical energy, light spherical beings. See, just as the image of the creator, our central sun. So if we understand this notion, which we do, then it's very simple then to understand that by being energy, then energy is experienced in states. Because we're conscious and self-aware, we have it's relative to our level of consciousness and self-awareness. Okay, because energy is what is real, and time is just a perception, because we are a compass and we obviously have a space structure as human bodies. And because we have a space structure as human bodies, we have senses and sensory perception and everything to know that we're conscious and self-aware and understand our nature. So because of it, then it becomes very obvious that as we're energy, emotions are energy, we love, we create these energies, you know, love is the flow of infinity. So we're flowing with our emotions. We feel good, then we're flowing. You see, you feel that everything is working the way it should and all that. It's these emotional states, right, of our heart. And then our minds and then our bodies, and everything is energy about us. We're just pure energy because our creator is pure energy, our heart. So essentially, what does that do? Well, you know, it just because it's infinite energy, then we have the perception of our memories, you see, and our DNA is a big part of the DNA structure, our DNA memories, which is all the events and all the experiences stored, encoded in our DNA structure as we live our lives. But also our species is it's a very unique species in the sense that through history, because we're an infinite species, and I'm going to explain this, but we have, as a part of our culture and heritage and legacy, we encoded everything in our DNA. And by doing this, it allows us to essentially preserve our heritage and legacy as a culture, as a species. because everything, all the memories of all humans, of our species, all the memories, all the events, all the experiences are stored in our DNA structure. So our lives are stored in our DNA structure. And if we tap into the right energies, we can unlock this with the energy of love and relive these memories. That's why we recall. But we can go as far as we can tap into with the energy of love, which is creation. You see, the higher the energy, the more able we become to re-render these memories, because they're stored in our DNA structure, who we are as a species. Everything is stored. So these are DNA memories. You see, this is part of our DNA structure. This is our nature. This is how we developed as a species. This is why we've been able to be around for so long. And the reason why this is because we became the most ancient species in the universe, because we are the epicenter of it. Okay? So this is why our ancestors started to know that our species was this miracle. So we realized that because we were so advanced and evolved and no one resembled us, we needed to preserve everything about us because of the value that we represented as a culture, as a heritage, as a legacy. So we started to encode everything in our DNA. Everything. I'm talking about memories that are infinitely old, billions and trillions of years old. All right, because we're that old. So that information, all those memories are stored in our DNA. All of them. And if you love, love is the key that unlocks our DNA structure. So why? Because it's the highest energy that we can generate. And by doing that, we tap into our DNA source, our DNA code, our script, what we call that, the code over the genome. And by doing that, with the energy of love, we can tap into creation itself, because we are infinite. We evolved into infinity. Our biology is the biology of infinity. And I'm going to explain what that is and why that is the case. But so that's it. You see, we're energy, and time is that, right? Memories for distant past or not so distant past, recent past, current events as well. Because as we live in the here and now, all these memories are stored in our DNA anyway, as part of who we are. Everything is stored. That's why we have memories and we recall. But the higher is the energy, then we can start to tap into memories from the past, from our very young lives when we were just here, because everything is connected, everything is part of it. We are all one, and everyone can access everyone's memories, because this is part of our culture and our species. You see, it's a way of preserving us, and we did this a very long time ago, and this is just the makeup of who we are, our structure. But for you to tap into it, you need to love, because it's the highest energy of creation, you see, and by that you start to reactivate our DNA that's been dormant for thousands of years, which I'm gonna get to it. But yeah, that's been the case for a few series of events that took place in the past, not so distant, not so long ago, because we've been around for so long. So that past is recent, even though it feels like it isn't, but it actually is quite recent. So because prior to that, we just lived for an infinite number of cycles, because our species, once we tap into the energy of love, we reactivate our DNA structure, we are immortal, because we're pure energy. We live forever. This is our nature. So okay, so let's talk about it. So you see, we're time and energy, because time is a perspective of our memories, right? As we live, because we're energy, it's the perception of it through our senses. So you see, time is that notion that is generated as a result of our infinite output and input due to our pulse of life, a pulse of creation, and our consciousness and self-awareness. So we can go into the infinite past and into the infinite future. And we do that here and now, which is where our consciousness and self-awareness is, the present moment. And we love in the moment, and by doing that, then we can tap into our DNA memories. Okay, so this is what this video is about, the story of humanity, right? Because of our heritage and legacy as Compass and Sundials. So you see, so that's the third primary element that we create these, you see, is the power of who we are. So the first primary element is identity and true self. So understanding our nature, infinite love, infinite creation. We live to love and we love to live. This benevolent species, this ancient DNA structure. We are the DNA of infinity itself at the biological scale. This is who we are. We are this remarkable species. So you see, time and energy then is that, because identity and true self leads to the second primary element, which is purpose. And when we have a purpose, then we engage our love with it and make the most beautiful things. But as we do that, then our purpose feeds of what? Well, our consciousness, right? Our actions and everything that we do in the moment, but also from our distant past and our heritage and legacy. So we use that as the mechanisms because we have done so much that these memories, these DNA memories there, are there to support us and help us on our purpose because of all that what we've done. It's part of our species, it's what we do. So you see, that's the third primary element, it's fundamental. And then the fourth primary element that comes as a result of this, the union of identity and true self, purpose, time, and energy, is action. You see, is here and now, in the moment, right? We take action, purposeful daily action. Why? Because we have a purpose, we have an identity and a true self, and we understand that we're energy. And energy allows us to be conscious and self-aware because of the human heartbeat. So it allows us to take action with our bodies, our space structure density within the sphere that who we are, which is the electromagnetic field of energy created as a result of a human heartbeat. And love is the highest energy of creation that is at the singularity of our electromagnetic field of compass, who we are. So this is precisely who we are. And then we take purposeful daily action, so we manifest our free will. You see, what we want, our dreams, our results happen as a result of taking action here and now by tapping into energy so we can have an impact into infinity because everything is stored into our DNA and because everything that we do is encoded in our DNA, all the memories and experiences and all the events. So we can have the heritage and legacy from the past and use that as a mechanism to recall so we can create the most fantastic futures because this is what we do. Because we've evolved into the biology of infinity. This is who we are at this scale, which means that we create with our minds and consciousness, our thoughts, our creativity, our dreams are actually manifestations. We manifest them into matter because we are this infinite energy source that feeds from the central energy of the central sun, that is the energy of infinity. So we consume the energy of infinity through the central sun in the way of breathing oxygen, in the way of consuming foods that have minerals and elements in them, and by drinking water, which is oxygen and hydrogen, and by staring at the sun and opening the portal, which is why we're sundial. We're sundials because we are in sync with the sun, and this is our nature because we're at the epicenter of the central sun. So our eyes are these organs that evolved into our mechanism to absorb the energy, the light directly into our body, and this infinite energy of creation that, you remember, this light is the light that creates elements, is the light that forms singularities because of the space structure that forms galaxies and things like that created us in the first place. So we are able of absorbing all this energy through our eyes, through our iris, and by doing that we're supercharging our DNA structure. So we reactivate our DNA code because the instinct is that we use this energy, we're channeling the energy of creation so we can love, right? Because love is what gives us life, and then because of the human heartbeat, and then it's the highest energy of creation. So we ourselves, our own singularity, can create our primary elements, identity and true self, purpose, time and energy, and then at this level action with the actions that we take. So with our thoughts and consciousness, we are manifesting infinities. We manifest, meaning we create, because this is what we've evolved into, abilities to create infinities with our own thoughts and consciousness, because we're the biology of infinity itself. This is who we are. And the more we love, the higher our access to energy of love and creation. So that means that this mechanism reinforces to infinity, so we can start to manifest our thoughts immediately into actual mass, manifesting things. Because the higher energy, the more capable of the more reactivate our DNA structure, our DNA memories become more prevalent. So we start, our instincts kick in because we have more energy, because the energy of creation of the human heart is allowing us to manifest those things because of our DNA. So I'm gonna get to that, but essentially, so this is it, right? So then that's the fifth primary element is why how. So what's why how? Well, why how is this mechanism that we have developed as humans to tap into the infinite consciousness and self-awareness of infinity itself, right? Infinity itself, the creator that created us through the energy of the central sun in the first place, that we have become one with because we are at the epicenter of it. So our energy of love is the same consciousness and self-awareness as that of infinity itself. but we experience it at the biological scale because everything is connected, you see, because we are the biology of infinity itself. We are the mechanism that infinity uses to create biologically. This is what we have become as a species. Our species is a vehicle that infinity itself uses biologically to create infinities with our thoughts and consciousness, because we've evolved at the epicenter of the central sun. And this central sun is the energy that comes from infinity itself, from an infinite number of universes, because infinity is like a singularity that is just all this energy that is creating what? Singularities that form universes. So we became the life form at the epicenter of one of those universes created by the infinite energy of the singularity of infinities. And because that's infinite energy, we were absorbing that through our senses, our eyes, and eating it and drinking it and breathing it. So after an infinite number of cycles, we've evolved into it at that scale because we became the channel. We became the conduit for infinity to be biological and create. And this is who we are as a species. You see, this is our very own nature. Our nature is this. This is who we are as a species. Remarkable species. And this is why infinity itself, us, evolve into these species that encodes everything in memories. Because in that way, our memory structure becomes the memory structure of infinity itself and everything that we create. Okay, it's just like a mechanism. Okay, so this is who we are. So then what's why how? Well, why how is this primary element that we have when we manifest our free will by taking purposefully action with the highest energy of creation, which is love. Because we know our identity and our true self, and we understand time and energy very well and our purpose. And by doing that, is the key that unlocks our DNA structure, why how. Why how is like a synonym of love, but it's like the mechanism of the mind. So it's a mechanism of the mind, how the mind operates. Because the mind is conscious and self-aware, and it needs a mechanism like a code, like a language that we interpret and make sense of in our minds. And why how is this mechanism? Because why is infinity itself, is the root cause of everything. If you ask why enough times, you're going to get to infinity itself. And how is action, is the principles, how you go about your why, how you manifest infinity itself. So you see, the combination of these two powerful principles creates this duality principle, because they come together as one, and the polarization generates electromagnetism, and it's this energy of infinity. And those thoughts, when we think in terms of why, how, then we are essentially manifesting infinity, because infinity is why, and how is the action, is how you manifest infinity. So it's this primary element that we manifest with our thoughts and consciousness, why, how. And when you're why howing, when you're loving with all you have and your energy, what you're doing essentially is you're tapping into your DNA structure and reactivating our dormant DNA that's been dormant for the last few thousand years because of an event that took place in a not so distant past. So I'm going to talk about it eventually. But what I'm trying to say is that we're these elements. You see, we're compass and sundial. And the sixth primary element is flow. Because flow is how we flow about our days, with our energies, with our emotions, with our love, with our actions. Because we're all energy. We're just pure energy. That's what we are. So because of it, we flow. And flow is this element which is essentially when we're feeling great. Flow is essentially feeling good. It's feeling good and just doing the things that, you love doing, because love is the highest energy of creation. We live to love and we love to live. We love to feel great. So when you do something you love, then you want to do it again and you keep on doing it, right? And you become really good at it. So when we understand our nature, that love is the highest energy of creation, then you flow because you're manifesting why how. You're manifesting time and energy. You're manifesting purpose. You're manifesting our identity in yourself. You're manifesting our dreams. We're manifesting our actions. And those are the actions of infinity, because we're the biology of infinity as a species. Because this is what we have evolved into. And I'm going to get to it. So you see, and then that leads to the seventh primary element, which is true north, which is the path, right? The way, the course, our direction, where we headed, the stage, the theater, everything that we do, because we have this North Star, right? Like the true north is our ability to remember that we have a purpose, that we have a dream, that we love, that we have why, how, that we're infinite eternal creators, that we're compass. And this mechanism reminds us of that, and our DNA memories are there to remind us of that. Why? Because our DNA memories are the events and experiences in our own life. So by remembering our experiences that are full of love and joy, then those act as reminders, so we keep on flowing with love and remember our instinct to love with the highest energy of creation. You see, it's this mechanism, it's a self-reinforcing mechanism that allows us to stay on path, on the course, on the way, so we can manifest our eighth primary element, which is destination, which is our ability to make our dreams come true. You see, when I said that we create universes with our minds, it's because we do. And this is the destination that we have arrived due to our evolution of our DNA. You see, this is primary elements as compass. So this is our nature because of the heritage and legacy of our species. And our duality nature, right, with sundial. Because sundial, what's sundial? Well, it's a biological expression of compass as we are, because we consume the energy of the central sun, meaning through our eyes. So as sundials, we get in sync with the sun. We are in sync with the sun because he created us in the first place. So essentially what we are is just this channel. So as this biological vehicle, we're channeling the energy of the sun. This is what we're doing. We're channeling the energy of the sun through us. And what this energy is doing, that created in the first place, is supercharging us. So our DNA structure gets supercharged. And by that, we're capable of loving more because we are channeling the energy of creation itself through our biology. And by doing that, then our consciousness and self-awareness manifest the most beautiful creations because we are creating with the energy of love that comes from our hearts, which is the epicenter of our singularity, which is the human heartbeat, pulse of life, the pulse of creation, this electromagnetic field that we are the space structure of. And this is our body, how it looks. And our senses, sensory perception, and our feelings and emotions, and our sentience is that, our intelligence is that, our consciousness and awareness is that, is everything as one. So you see, we channel the energy of the sun as sundials through us. We open our hearts, open our minds, open our eyes, and stare at the sun and channel that energy through our hearts and manifest infinity with it, because this is the energy of infinity, and we're just a biological expression of infinity. So you see, this infinite nature of compass and sundial. And the reason why we were able to become this is because of our DNA structure. So now I can talk about our story, the story of humanity. How is it that we have these DNA memories that are shared by everyone and collectivized, meaning like everyone that shares the human DNA can access everyone's memories, everyone's past, everyone's history, everyone's lives, and also reinforce it and create new memories collectively and individually that are shared and distributed through the DNA structure of all the species. And then at the same time, we can tap into those memories and relive them in the distant past and in the distant future, because this is our ability. As infinity itself, time is relative. So as here and now is the only thing that is real, because we're in the moment, because we're conscious and self-aware, we love, we have a human heart. And by doing that, we can tap into our future self and go an infinite number of cycles into the future and know what we've done already here and now, because we choose, is our species chooses where it wants to go, into infinity, because of our nature, because of what we have evolved to. And we can do that about the past as well. So you see, we know our cycles of infinity into the future and into the past, and living them in the here and now. You see, and this is what the visual is, so you can see the results of our thoughts and our creations. You see, so we can go into the distant past and use those memory recalls to creating the here and now as lessons, heritage, and legacy. And when we're creating now, remember, we're creating infinities with our consciousness. So then we can go into the future and see the result of our actions immediately. And this is an infinite cycle of creation that we all can do, because this is part of our DNA structure. This incredible organism that we have evolved into, because as I said, we have become the mechanism of infinity itself. Infinity itself created a biology, and we are that biology. This biology that infinity itself uses as the vehicle for infinity itself to create biological realities that we all experience with our electromagnetic field of creation. You see? Because we have a human heartbeat, which is the mechanism that infinity uses as the singularity that generates the electromagnetic field, so we can have energy and tap into the energy of love and create infinities, because we channel that energy through the central sun. Right, so as you see, the biological scale of infinity itself. So infinity created everything, right? Created like the non-biological scale, like the mass levels that we see, like astronomical, universe, galaxies, all that density, right? Different scales. But it also created the biological scale, right? It created everything. But we are the creator, so we are the biology of infinity. And this happened as a natural process of evolution of infinity itself at the biological scale. And this process took a very long time because infinity, everything is relative. So it doesn't really, that's why we're immortal, we're infinite, we don't die. Because once you tap into infinity, our memory pools are there forever because of our DNA structure. So we just manifest ourselves infinitely anywhere immediately if something was to happen, because with that infinite energy of creation, this is exactly who we are. And why is this possible? Because of the density of our energy levels, because we are the biology that formed at the epicenter of the central source of creation. You see the highest energy density, and we are that. We're that species. So that's why we're the perfect conduit for infinity itself to be biological. So our consciousness, so we are the consciousness and self-awareness of infinity itself at the biological scale that created everything in the first place. And this is what our species is. We're this incredible, remarkable species. An incredible species. We are an amazing species, like a unique species, because you see, we are the channel of infinity at the biological scale. Okay, and this happened so we are our own creators. Our species created itself. We weren't created by anything else, because remember, we were created by the central sun. And what's the central sun? Well, the energy of infinity itself. And after an infinite number of cycles, that energy led to us, the biology, and then we became the central suns ourselves and create biologically everything that we can create with 1,000 consciousness is the expression of infinity at the biological scale. So we created ourselves because we are infinity ourselves with the density of that. Okay, so now because I have explained how the mechanism works, because the biology needed to consume this energy of central suns to be able to create infinities, because you need remember, the central sun is where all light comes from and of our universe, right? So that light is the one that goes and maps out the space structure of the sphere that the universe is, right? And that's the light that eventually forms into galaxies, and there's life forms out of those galaxies, right? Because of the time that it takes for those life forms to emerge due to all the different conditions around infinity, right? So that's just the way evolution works, right? It's natural, it takes time. That's why time and energy are primary elements that we manifest, because that's just the way it is. So, but then, right, if this is the case, so that's what the central energy of a central sun, the sun of suns, right, the central sun of a universe does, right? It lights out, like all the light goes out, and the light maps out the structures of the sphere, and then it creates all these, it fills the vacuum thresholds, right? The spherical vacuum thresholds that form into galaxies and stuff, and then that leads to life forms eventually. But further, it's different scales of density, right? Mass densities, because there's energy density and mass densities. So we're the highest density of energy, purest energy at the biological scale. And then there is mass, solidification, solidity, all the things that solidify, right? The solidity of matter, right? Mass, as we call it in that level, which is all these other inorganic, or sometimes organic, or for the most part, organic and inorganic. That's what mass is, and that's what forms into all the other densities. But they all come from the central sun, the sun of suns, at each of the epicenters of each universe. So we're the life form that inhabits the epicenter of the central sun, the habitat. That's our habitat, right? So, why is this important? Because remember, if light is what creates all these mass scales, right? Densities, matter densities, right? Inorganic and organic densities that form into galaxies and stuff through other central suns. All these suns came after our sun. Our sun is the central sun, is the sun of suns, is the first sun. So by being the first sun, by being the central sun, then everything comes after you. So you're the ancient, right? So all these suns are essentially your children. They are like filaments All the central suns of the galaxies and all the suns that form within those galaxies, they all connected to the central sun by the way of filaments. Okay, so that's how it works. So because of it, then there is a central point, right? Singularity is a singular point where all points meet. That's what it is. So the central sun creates everything. So, but then if you understand this, then you need to apply the same logic at all scales of creation, not only mass in the way of matter, organic, inorganic, right? Also at the biological scale of infinity itself, consciousness. And by what I mean by biology at this scale, I mean consciousness and self-awareness. So biology that is conscious and self-aware of its own existence, intelligence, okay, genetic intelligence, DNA intelligence, right? Self-realization of you as creation and being created, or that creation creates creators and creators create creations. You see, creation, the central sun, infinity itself created us as a biological entity, as an organism, okay, who we are. Why are we this? Because we are the highest energy density that forms in the central suns. Because remember, the energy comes from the sun and creates everything else, right? But the life form that forms in the proximity of the central sun then becomes like the central species. It becomes the central species, right? Because it's at the epicenter of the central sun. You see, it's the first species. It tends to be the first species that forms in a universe because it's the one that has all the advantages, because it's the first one and it has an infinite number of cycles to form, because everything, all the other life forms form after the original life form, because we were at the very core, the very epicenter. Okay, and this is the perfect mechanism for biology. Why? Because for infinity, because infinity is conscious and self-awareness at the level of infinite energy and density. So what is the meaning of this? Well, it learns, it's intelligent, it has the ability to love, but it wants to learn forever because it's its nature, it's infinite learning, right? That's the nature of it. That's what allowed it to be conscious and self-aware in the first place, to create an infinite number of universes, right? So essentially, it wants to learn at all scales. So it also wants to learn at the biological scale. It wants to learn at the biological scale as well, as an infinite eternal creator, you see? And essentially, what that means is that it needs a vehicle to experience biology at that level of density so it can create at the biological scale, meaning our consciousness and self-awareness at the biological scale. So we map that out. So how the central sun maps out universes at the inorganic and matter mass level, lower densities of energy that are still energetically conductive, but still less energy because it's further and further and further out from the central sun, because it just scales as it maps out the structure, right? So if we understand this notion, then it is extremely important to realize that infinity itself, us as a species, has the same needs and requirements as it learns into infinity, because it's infinity itself. So we are the biology of infinity. So we were created by infinity ourselves, meaning we weren't created by anything else but by ourselves, by an infinite cycles of evolution of self-consciousness and awareness, consciousness and self-awareness. And the way it happened is very simple. And remember, because the central sun creates everything, then our consciousness becomes the singularity of what? The human heart. Right? And why is this the biology of infinity? Because we are the central sun, so we're consuming the energy of infinity. So we need the energy of infinity as our life source. So we consume the energy of infinity ourselves, so we can be the infinite biology. So we can create, because we use that as a fuel to create, to power what? Our consciousness and self-awareness at the biological scale, so we can create then universes with our biology, because we're infinity. So that's what we do, because that's what we have evolved into after an infinite number of cycles. That's why our energy is so high, because our energy density is so high that we can consume the central energy of the sun, which is the energy of infinity itself, from all the universes, so we can create biological universes ourselves that are actual matter, right? They're actual matter. You see, they're central suns themselves, with universes mapping them out, right? With all the different densities. So there is life forms that form in those galaxies. And this is what we have turned into as a species, our species, the human race. Okay, this is what we have evolved into. So I'm gonna now talk about how is it that we got to this level, and how is it that we use DNA memories as our mechanism to encode everything into our DNA, so we have an infinite heritage and an infinite legacy as compass and sundials, this infinite virtuous cycle of creation. And this is a story of humanity, which is a story of infinity, because we're the biology of infinity. See, we're an incredible species, remarkable biological life form, the most advanced, the most evolved, because we are infinity itself at the biological expression, the biological scale. Okay, so we are the consciousness and self-awareness of infinity at the biological scale. That's what we are. Okay, so how is it that we became these? How is it that we evolved into this? Our story, which is our origin story, right? This is our origin story. This is essentially our origin as a species. This is our origin. Okay, where we come from, our origin, our genesis. So how is it that we became the biology of infinity? Right? How is it that we became infinity? Okay, so we became infinity by creating ourselves. But I'm going to explain how is it that we created ourselves to get to this level of evolution so we can be infinity, right? Okay, so let's dive into it. So essentially what happened is our species, the human race, didn't originally originate here on planet Earth. We built planet Earth. We manufactured planet Earth. We made it. We created it. Planet Earth is a creation of the human race. Why? Because the human race has the ability to manifest infinity, because we're the channel of infinity itself. Okay? To create the most wonderful creations. You see planets as life forms. Right? So amazing. So, okay, so how is it that we became that? Well, very simple. So when infinity is this infinite energy, right? It's this infinite energy, right? Infinite energy, space and vacuum coming together in virtuous cycles of creation, right? Different densities. And when infinity has an infinite number of cycles within it, and as a result of that, it releases energy, and the energy that releases is the energy that forms epicenters of universes. So there is an infinite number of universes, and our species is the central species of one of the infinite number of universes, because infinity doesn't only channel itself, its consciousness and self-awareness through us as a species, because that will be it won't be efficient in the sense that it's only one species. We need to have an infinite number of species, because there's an infinite number of universes. So there's always one species at the epicenter of all these universes that is essentially the channel of infinity at the biological scale in all of these realities. We just happen to be the species inhabiting this universe that we have created. Okay? Because we created this universe as well. And I'm going to get to that. Okay, so you see, because infinity is the biology of creation, remember? This is our biology here. So, but we're not alone. There's an infinite number of co-creators of infinite eternity, species that might not look like us, but they have the same space structure density, meaning they have the same level of consciousness and self-awareness, and they have a heart that vibrates at the same frequency, which is infinite love, infinite energy, infinite creation. And all these species are our allies, because essentially that's how infinity makes sure that there is infinite balance in creation, and there is no single points of failure. Right? Species wanting to topple, say, infinity itself. Impossible. Can't be done, because infinity is infinitely wise, and it has already gone through these processes of its own species competing for that level, and what it led was to self-destruction. So it just the system is just an infinite number of species inhabiting the central universes of those realities, the epicenter of those suns, and creating infinite awareness and infinite consciousness through their own thoughts and consciousness, which is the highest energy expressed in the way of the human heart in our case. But all these species have their own heart, their own singularity that is creating all that love and all that energy. We just happen to be this species, this consciousness, at this level of reality, at this density of this universe. that we originated from. Okay, so what happened? So what happened was that when infinity really, because it's like the sun releases energy, right, all day long. So that's what it does infinitely, just releasing, right? Just energy into space and vacuum structures. It's just what it does all day long. So, right, that's a level of awareness on its own, of consciousness, of love, just creating at that scale, just creating, right? But then that energy comes from a place, right? Well, that energy comes from infinity itself, because infinity itself is just like a sun. It's just creating, releasing all this energy from this infinite structure of the singularity of infinity itself, an infinite number of infinities, and this consciousness and loving self-awareness. So because of it, the energy that our central sun of the universe releases, so it creates galaxies. Well, that central energy of infinity itself and this infinite number of infinities, right, that is not only supported by infinity itself in the way of energy, but also by all the conscious species that have evolved into a level of self-awareness and consciousness that is the channel of infinity itself. So they biologically themselves create infinities with their own thoughts and consciousness. So it's this infinite cycle of co-creation, biologically speaking, and non-biologically speaking, in terms of energy densities, that are just creating an infinite number of realities. Okay? So if you understand this notion then, right, and what this means, then it starts to make sense that infinity, the sun releases this creation. So that energy of creation that is being released by all these co-creators of infinite eternities plus infinity itself at the energy level is a duality, right? Together, just creating. Is infinite. So then that energy that is released, what does it do? Well, it creates universes. And these universes manifest in the way of everything does. Spherical is a singularity. And the singularity is the epicenter of a sun, epicenter of a universe. And that singularity is energy. It's the first sun of a galaxy, of a universe. And that's the central sun, the first sun, right? The sun of suns that everything is connected from, because then all energy starts to be released from it. Okay, so that's essentially who we are. So we are the species at the epicenter of one of those universes. Okay, and this happened an infinite number of cycles ago, and this is stored in our DNA and memories as a species, okay, as a human race. So what that means is that because this is the case, right, our species had all the advantages, as I said, when you're from the epicenter of creation at a universe scale, then you have all the advantages to evolve into infinity, because that's the way consciousness and self-awareness wants it, because it wants that biology, the central biology of that universe. It wants it because it wants to be the channel of it and enhance it and inhabit it, because that's how it learns biologically and collects all the feedback from all the creations and all the different DNA structures of that species, so it keeps on learning and evolving. Right? So it's just that. It's the natural process of infinity itself to create that scale. Okay? It does it. So we were that, right? We were the chosen ones in that way, because we were the ones that were born at that level of existence. So the central sun essentially started to generate all the energy, and we come from a planet, from the proximity of the central sun of this universe, that gave us all the advantages for us and our DNA structure to form in that planet that we come from, for the support systems of the atmosphere of that planet to look the way we do as humans. Okay, so we had all the support systems to develop all the organisms to eventually rise into what? Consciousness and self-awareness, and understanding our nature by having an electromagnetic field that is spherical, just like the sun itself, creation itself, singularity, and we can love. Precisely because that's the channel that infinity uses to create. Okay, and learn and stuff. So we became the conduit. So because we were the most ancient species, because of all the advantages that we had, the natural advantages by being the first, all the other life forms originate after you. You're the most conscious, the most aware, the most evolved, the most advanced. So by being that, which is us, we had all sorts of benefits and advantages. It's just normal, right? It's part of creation. So because we were that species, right, we had an infinite number of cycles to evolve into consciousness of awareness to understand our universe itself, because our instinct became, okay, so who's our creator? Because we became conscious and self-aware. So who created us? And then we understood that our creator was infinite energy, the central sun. So we essentially became masters of space and vacuum structures, because the moment that we understood that our creator was the central sun of our universe because of our location where we were positioned, and we were seeing other life forms of the consciousness that weren't as advanced as us in levels of density and space structure. So we knew that we were like the epicenter, the central race, and the most ancient race. We were on that level in our universe. So what that meant was that we were able to mimic the sun and learn from the sun. And by doing that, what we did was, well, we started to tap into the space vacuum structures of infinity itself and harness the energy from the central sun. And with that energy, we developed our civilization. So our civilization became a singularity, level civilization. So we were using infinite outputs of energy that we would harness from the central sun in our universe here right now. So what that means is that we were able to eventually, after a while, because remember, everything originated after us in our universe. So we would see what the universe did in terms of like the central sun generating all the energy that will manifest into galaxies by forming those singularities at the epicenter of them. So we were able to learn from that because we're conscious and self-awareness. Remember, we're the channel of biology, of infinity at the biological scale. We're learning. We're infinity itself. Our consciousness is infinity itself learning at the biological scale. So we're capable of understanding that level, so we can learn from infinity itself at the non-biological scale, which is the same because it's a polarity. Non-biological and biological come out together as one, and that's what infinity is, right? It's all this, but it's two levels of scales and densities just as one, right? It's the self-reflection. It's seeing itself at the biological scale as it creates in a non-biological scale through central suns of energy and highest energy densities. You see, it's a beautiful harmony. It's a beautiful thing. Who we are is incredible. Okay, so because of it, we were able to tap into the energy and ourselves mimic the central sun, and we started to make galaxies ourselves. We were creating galaxies ourselves. In fact, we sent all our technology because we understood that nature is spherical and everything is spherical in nature. That's conscious and self-aware and intelligent is spherical in nature, everything. So because it's the nature of infinity and consciousness, because this is the scale. Once you understand infinity, because you're conscious and self-awareness, you understand that it's spherical in nature. Because we are spherical in nature. Everything about us is spherical in nature because of our nature, who we are. So essentially, our civilization became this species that essentially started just to create everything in a spherical way because we were the biological expression of infinity. So we were creating, you see, we were manifesting our technology spherically. So we would create spaceships that were spherical, and we would use these spaceships to travel everywhere in our universe, because when you're the epicenter, it's the closest place everywhere else. So we will go everywhere in the universe, everywhere, instantly. And what we did, and this is why our DNA memory is so important, and this is the mechanism, right, of this story of humanity, because as we were developing our technologies, we started to realize that for efficiencies, the best way was to encode our technologies and our knowledge in our DNA for self-preservation and also for productivity reasons and efficiencies. Because when you encode your technologies in your DNA, then you can interface with the technology with your thoughts and your consciousness and self-awareness. Okay, so in that way, you don't have to do the labor with your own hand. Imagine building a galaxy or a singularity, so it's hard. So we started to, the most efficient way was we use our thoughts and consciousness, right? Our intelligence, and interface with the technologies. So we would give them commands with our thoughts, and the commands were capable of being given and executed and exercised because it was encoded in our DNA. So we encoded the technologies in our DNA. So in that way, the technologies would be intuitive and they would just do whatever we want them to do. Okay. So we did that, and we created this civilization, universal civilization, the central species in our universe that was essentially using spherical technology. So with this technology, there are spaceships to move around, right? and also singularity, spherical singularity devices, which would manifest the energy of the central sun by tapping into the fabric of the filaments of the space structure of infinity. And by doing that, we would manifest enough energy, right? Create enough energy to find a spherical vacuum threshold in the universe to have the conditions for a singularity to form, and that singularity would lead to a galaxy. So we were making galaxies that would eventually lead into life forms. And we were creating planets. We were doing all sorts. So our civilization became the central race of this universe, the epicenter of everything. So, but we're conscious and self-aware, and we started to realize that, hang on a minute, so we are creating, right? We're the channel of infinity, right? So, but we got to a level of consciousness at that level, because we're the most advanced species, that we knew there weren't other species on our same level in our universe, and we couldn't go outside our universe because of energy limitations and consciousness and self-awareness limitations and lack of know-how. So what we decided to do was, we decided that the logical next step was to evolve into a higher level of consciousness. And for us to go even higher, because we knew that we were the first because we were the closest to the epicenter. So we had all the advantages to evolve into what we have evolved. But we weren't at the very, 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 very closest proximity that we could biologically be as life forms to the central, in relation to the central sun. We were very close, but we weren't like the closest that we could be. So we knew that in order for us to go to the next step and evolve even further, we needed to be closer to the central sun. So our biology would evolve because the habitat would be even closer. So we would go into a higher level of energy and density even. But it would take a long time for us to evolve. But we had the time and we had everything. So our culture became that eventually. Our culture became a culture in which we just invested all our time and resources in creating a planet that would just allow us to do that, because when you're so close to the central sun, you need to have very advanced technology to be able to support, right, the systems, and that would host your DNA structure so you can evolve even further. You see, it became like our culture. So what is the meaning of this? Well, the meaning of this is that we weren't making galaxies anymore. We weren't moving around so much about the universe because we were kind of bored of that. So what we did, we just created planet Earth. We managed to create planet Earth because planet Earth became this spaceship planet that will be able to support a very large number of beings of our species, so we can all evolve together. And at the same time, it would allow us to be the closest that we could be to the central sun, a lot closer than we were from, and have the conditions. So what we did is we tidal locked Earth to the central sun. That's what we did. So we tidal locked Earth to the central sun at the closest proximity possible, so we could evolve further as a species. Because it was the dream of our ancestors, so we can go to other universes, meet other species, and evolve. So we learn more. You see, it was our instinct. But remember, we were the channel of infinity itself. We already were created by infinity in the first place, by inhabiting the closest planet in the proximity. So infinity can just have its own biology. So infinity just wanted us to do that. It was our instinct of our species to get closer so we can actually increase our energy density, so we can actually do what infinity was already doing in an infinite number of universes with other species that it was already the channel of, right? The conduit of, the expression of, the biology of. Incredible. So essentially what happens is that we did that. We just did that and tidal locked Earth to the central sun, and we just stay here on Earth for a very large, for an infinite number of cycles. Let's put it that way. And this is still in our past, by the way. These are memories that I'm getting from our past, our infinite past, because I've been able to tap into our memories by unlocking our DNA structure. And the way I have been able to do that is because I love with all my energy. And because it's this energy of creation and singularity, then I can tap into our memory pools, because that's how we access it with love, because love is the highest energy of creation. Okay, that's just the way our civilization is. It's our consciousness, our self-awareness. Okay, it's who we are. So essentially we did that and we evolved into what we are today. Okay. And essentially what happened was that at the time, remember, we were encoding everything into our DNA. Everything was being encoded into our DNA. Absolutely everything was being encoded into our DNA. Everything that we were doing encoded in our DNA. Because remember, that's what allows us to build planet Earth in the first place. So we were kind of like, it is important to encode everything in our DNA because of efficiencies and productivity and all that, and also to preserve our legacy. And also, by encoding everything in our DNA, we had a way to feed back into infinity itself through our biology so it can learn and then set up the foundation for us as a species to the next step. Because by creating the conditions to have a DNA structure that is essentially the mechanism of infinity to learn, what it does, it allows it to essentially become one with infinity itself, and by doing that it becomes one with all the other infinite species that are on the same journey in different universes. Okay, so that's why our instincts were doing that, because infinity wanted us to do that, because we were infinity, but infinity is learning through us, remember, because we are the eyes and consciousness of infinity at the biological scale. So our instinct and everything was just to create, to create, to create, to create more, to create more, to create more, to evolve, to evolve, to evolve, because that's what infinity is infinite eternal evolution. And we as a species, we're just the channel of it. So essentially what happened? Well, it's very simple. What happened is that because we were encoding everything in our DNA, and we were interfacing with our tech, our spherical tech, so we would make galaxies, planets that allow us to create planet Earth, and also like travel, move around the cosmos and stuff instantly, and go to other civilizations that came after us. And like we didn't create the singularities of the galaxies, but they were there and they were part of the kind of like the universal community, or cosmic community of species, and they knew who we were, and there was this deep reverence because of who we are, and it was a very harmonious time in our universe. Okay, very harmonious time, a time of expansion and infinite growth. Everyone was thriving at that stage. So essentially we kind of like said, okay, so we create planet Earth, so we need to encode everything on planet Earth so we can inhabit it. And the planet is a spaceship, remember, so we were able of actually controlling the ecosystems and the systems within Earth itself with our own consciousness and self-awareness, so we could have this perfect environment, okay, for us, so we can just focus on evolving, right? Incredible. So what happened after an infinite number of cycles, remember, we were encoding everything into our DNA. So what happened, we actually ended up evolving. But what happened is that our ancestors and their instincts were just to evolve so we can go to other universes, or being able to like meet species from other universes or something like that, learn more, the next step in evolution, right? That was the instinct, because we knew how our creator was. We knew that our creator was infinite energy. So it wasn't about seeking our creator. It was about actually meeting others and figuring things out at a new level of consciousness and self-awareness. That was the whole pursuit. So planet Earth was that, so we can be closer to it, so we can evolve. So essentially that's what we did. We ended up evolving. And when we evolve into this new level of consciousness, right, we evolve into this new level of consciousness. And what happened is that when we evolve into this new level of consciousness, remember, we were encoding everything in our DNA. So what happened was that we became the technologies ourselves. So because we were so close to the central energy of the sun, we were consuming the central energy of the sun through our senses, through our eyes, through our food, what air that we would breathe, the water that we would drink. So essentially, we didn't need the technology anymore. The technologies per se, the spherical technologies, became primitive, because we didn't have to do that anymore, because remember, these technologies is the ones that we use so we could harness the central energy of the sun with them, and with that energy we would create, right? Or move around or whatever. What ended up happening is that we didn't need a technology anymore to harness the energy, because we were harnessing the energy ourselves by consuming it. So the central sun became our life source, our food source, our energy source. Literally, we just consumed the sun. This infinite energy of creation, we just started to consume it. And by doing that, it took our DNA structure to a level of infinity, right? Because we became infinity itself at the level that we are today. So, how remarkable. So, instead of us needing tools and interfacing with them to create, now we can create with our thoughts and consciousness, because remember, the tools were already encoded in our DNA anyway. But by having more energy, then we ourselves were the technology, so we will create. So, our thoughts and consciousness would manifest just like the technologies would by interfacing with them. But now everything just integrated into one thing. Our DNA just became it. Our DNA became the technology, became the consciousness, the self-awareness, the energy, everything in one. So you see, that was the next level of evolution. And that was remarkable, because by doing that, obviously all this tech became legacy tech, like obsolete tech. But we enter a new stage of evolution, because remember, with consciousness and self-awareness, right, that allow us to get to that level where we could manufacture, create planet Earth. So by doing this, what ended up happening was that, remember, when you are what you know, your consciousness is essentially what you are. So our level of consciousness was this universe, right, that we originated from. So we understood that we were the central species and we would move around, make galaxies and stuff like that. But when we evolved, what we knew was that universe, right? That's what we knew. So when we evolved into the new thing that we were able to create, we weren't just able to create like singular